A young woman, 21, had a sister who was 30 years old with a 9-year-old son who had asthma. The asthma was generally well controlled with medication and careful management. But the sister held dangerous beliefs. She was anti-vaccine, convinced that immunizations could cause strokes and autism and other unscientific nonsense that had been repeatedly debunked by medical professionals worldwide. About a month ago, the sister had taken her son to his pediatrician for a routine checkup. The doctor had strongly recommended prophylactic vaccines specifically designed to protect asthmatic children from respiratory complications. These vaccines were crucial. Asthma made children particularly vulnerable to respiratory infections that could quickly become life-threatening. The sister refused. She told the doctor she was afraid the vaccines would cause autism. The doctor had likely explained, as doctors always do, that this claim had been thoroughly discredited. That the original study linking vaccines to autism had been fraudulent and retracted. That millions of children had been safely vaccinated. But the sister didn't care. Her fear, rooted in misinformation, overrode medical expertise. The days passed. Life continued normally. Then, 5 days ago, her nephew caught a respiratory tract infection. At first, it seemed manageable, a cough, some congestion, the usual symptoms. But it kept getting worse. His breathing became labored. His oxygen levels dropped. His body, already compromised by asthma, couldn't fight the infection effectively. He went into septic shock. His organs began to fail. His oxygen saturation plummeted. He was rushed to the ICU, where doctors worked frantically to stabilize him. His condition continued to deteriorate despite their best efforts. When the young woman arrived at the hospital, she found her sister crying hysterically. The doctor had just delivered devastating news. Her nephew's prognosis was very poor. The infection had progressed too far. His body wasn't responding to treatment. The implication was clear: he was dying. The young woman looked at her sister sobbing in the hospital corridor and felt something break inside her. Not sympathy. Rage. "Wow," she said, her voice cold with fury. "You really have the nerve to cry when you're the one who caused all this with your ignorance. If you had followed his pediatrician's advice, none of this would have happened. And if he dies, which he probably will, based on the doctor's opinions, there is no one to blame but yourself." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Her mother immediately grabbed her arm and started yelling. She called her an insensitive bitch. She said she was an asshole for saying such things at a time like this. How could she be so cruel when her sister was suffering? How could she blame a grieving mother in her darkest moment? But the young woman believed what she said. Her sister's ignorance had directly caused this crisis. The doctor had recommended prophylactic vaccines for asthmatic patients, vaccines that included protection against pneumonia, the very infection now ravaging her nephew's body. The doctor hadn't explicitly stated that the boy was in the ICU because he hadn't received the vaccines. But he had said the pneumonia had exacerbated his condition. The connection wasn't difficult to see. Asthmatic children needed those vaccines precisely because respiratory infections could be catastrophic for them. The sister had been given the information. She had been given the recommendation. She had been warned. And she had chosen ideology over her son's safety. Now her son was dying. And she was crying. And everyone was acting like this was a tragedy that had struck without warning, an act of fate that couldn't have been prevented. But it could have been prevented. That was the unbearable truth. A simple vaccine, a brief appointment, a momentary discomfort, could have saved this child's life. Instead, the sister's refusal, rooted in conspiracy theories and medical misinformation, had put her son in the ICU fighting for survival. Was the young woman wrong for saying what everyone else was thinking but too polite to voice? Was she an asshole for refusing to comfort someone whose choices had led directly to this crisis? Or was she simply speaking the truth that needed to be spoken, even if the timing was brutal? What do you think about this situation? Was the young woman wrong to confront her sister about vaccine refusal while her nephew was dying in the ICU, or did her sister need to hear the truth? At what point does refusing medical advice become negligence? Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Like, comment, share, and follow this page for more.